Welcome to the More Perfect Union, the podcast that offers real debate without the hate. From the right side of the political aisle, we have
DJ McGuire, a progressive conservative from Suffolk, Virginia.
And from the left, we have
Greg Matuzak, a common-sense liberal who neither has a Richard Nixon tattoo or has been indicted. The two probably have something in common. From Cincinnati, Ohio.
And I am Rebecca Kushmiter, a progressive feminist from Kensington, Maryland.
who also doesn't have a Richard Nixon tattoo on her back.
That we know of.
Hey, I will not confirm or deny any tattoos.
And I'm Kevin Kelton, a passionate moderate from Los Angeles with a Shirley Chisholm tattoo on my back.
Hot.
I am tattoo-free in case anyone cares.
The More Perfect Union Podcast.com, that is our website. We'd like you to check it out. We post a lot of articles there. Also, go to iTunes and give us a rating and a review. We would love that as well. And Rebecca, did you read any Pop Goes the Political Culture articles this week?
I sure did. I posted today about Generation X being the forgotten generation, but if you tune into Fox in about, half an hour from when we're recording this, you'll get a reminder of who we are. They're broadcasting a live presentation of the musical Rent, which I love. And I told everyone who doesn't vaccinate their kids because Jenny McCarthy tells them not to, I told them that they're dickheads and they need to get the kids vaccinated because measles is making a resurgence in Washington.
And we want to remind you that our show is brought to you by Blinkist, the app that lets you fit reading into your life. Blinkist.com/moreperfectunion. That's where to go for your 7-day free trial.
Did you know it's Cliff Dunn's birthday today? I think we should mention that.
Hey, happy birthday, Cliff!
Happy birthday, Cliff.
Happy birthday, Cliff.
He's good people.
Yes, he is.
That's it. I just have to throw that out.
So the shutdown showdown is at least temporarily over, although who knows what's going to happen in 3 weeks. Trump, he got dog walked by Ms. Nancy. Boy, did she give it to him. Oh, and by the way, before I let you guys talk, and you guys will get a chance to talk, I want to acknowledge that I was wrong about my prediction. Just as the shutdown was beginning, I had a two-part prediction. One was that it was going to last a lot longer than 3 days, and that was right. And the other was I thought Trump was going to end up having to get something, or the Democrats were going to have to give him something for it to end, and he got nothing so far. So as of now, my prediction looks pretty bad.
Did anyone on the show predict that Trump would get no wall funding whatsoever?
Yes.
Did anyone predict that? Anyone?
She's woman-splaining.
Did anyone named me predict that? Yeah. I told you guys, when Pelosi digs her heels in, they're 5-inch heels.
Yeah, they sure wore spiked heels in this case.
So you said that Trump got nothing, but did the Democrats get anything besides street cred?
Well, that's a very good question. I would say yes, because first of all, there's some talk now about passing legislation to stop government shutdowns from ending government funding in the future. And I think that would be progress.
Okay, wait, I'm going to interrupt you there. Do you know what talk is? Talk is cheap. And my mom says I'm cool. That's what talk is.
Okay, so it probably won't happen with Mitch McConnell running the Senate, but at least people are trying.
Right, Mitch McConnell says I'm cool too. It means nothing.
Okay, so I'll throw to DJ. DJ, did the Democrats get anything out of this?
They got a political win, which matters. No, that matters.
It does. I'm giving you that.
That does matter. They can say that they have drawn blood against Donald Trump, which is new.
Okay. Can I, since we're all in agreement that Nancy Pelosi won this thing and sort of embarrassed him, let me say something positive about the President of the United States. And I'm not being facetious here.
Who are you? Where's Kevin?
Isn't that usually your job, Greg?
Yeah.
My point is that this was a presidential thing for him to do. Sometimes when you're president, things don't go your way. And you have to be able to take a hit, realize that you're holding a bad hand, fold, and move on to the next, deal. And in this case, he realized he had a losing hand. He played it way too long, but at least he was smart enough to know it's time to move on to take the political knock and let the chips fall where they may. And there's a whole lot of poker references and metaphors in there. I didn't mean that.
Okay. I'm going to disagree.
Okay.
And politely and respectfully, because...
No, you don't have to do that.
No, okay, in that case, you're crazy. I assume you hit your head.
What are you smoking, Kelton?
What are you? So it's California, you crazy. No, two things. One, I can't give any leader credit who put his constituents, who put his people through 35 days of hardship for nothing, for a point, which he had no exit strategy. He had no plan B. He went in and said, well, let's just see what could happen. But B, and we're about to get into this, we all know the reason it ended on Friday was because he was trying to cover up bigger news that happened that morning.
Oh, I completely agree. In fact, I have actually said this on social media.
Right.
That I would not be surprised if he was actually told on Friday that the longer this keeps going, the harder it is for him to get 34 senators to vote for acquittal when the time comes.
Exactly. When something happened, and we're about to talk about it, when someone got indicted, and I'm going to leave it as a mystery for those of you who didn't watch TV this weekend, when someone got indicted on Friday morning and everything like hit the proverbial fan, they were like, hey, what can I throw as a diversion? And he's like, well, Ivanka got a new haircut. That's not going to work. We're not doing press meetings. That's not going to work. I could call Jeff Bezos a new name. I've been working on some new ones. Hey, we'll end the shutdown. That was it.
So let's get to the elephant in the room that has a Nixon tattoo on its back. Roger Stone was indicted on Friday, and I woke up at 4:30 on the West Coast and started doing my Stone is indicted dance that I told you guys I'd be doing on the day that he was taken away in handcuffs.
Oh, yeah. Sorry for waking you up at 4:30 in the morning with the message flurry about that.
Oh, no, I enjoyed it. Are you kidding? You can wake me up any day for that kind of news. So let's look at this, because this is really, to me, the ice cream and cake of the week. Not just the fact that he was indicted, because we all knew that was coming, but I love how the conservative side of the political spectrum is trying to rewrite this indictment as a big nothing burger, that, oh, he was just indicted for lying to Congress and for obstruction of justice. Those aren't crimes like collusion.
Working with others to obstruct justice is, in fact, colluding to obstruct justice. Collusion is not a legal term. It's a media term. And the fact that every conservative commentator is like, well, the word collusion doesn't appear, it just shows that none of them went to law school.
By the way, collusion is in the criminal code, and there is a crime of collusion. They keep saying on the media that it doesn't exist. It does exist. I've seen it.
Oh, I thought it was conspiracy. I thought that was the
No,
term.
that collusion is also in the criminal code.
Oh,
But let's go back to this.
I didn't go to law school either. I'm no better than a conservative pundit.
Let's go back to this issue of they keep claiming that there was no evidence of collusion in the indictment. Now, it's true that the indictment was for charges of perjury and obstruction of justice, but the story of what he was lying about, it's just immersed in collusion. The whole thing was about collusion with WikiLeaks, who we all know is now an arm, or has been for the last 2 years, an arm of the Russian government. So this idea that there was no evidence of collusion in the indictment, it's nonsense. Now, there's 30% of America that's going to buy that nonsense because they don't think for themselves. But it's crazy. They're gaslighting us.
Yes.
Well, they're trying to win the spin war of this.
It warmed my heart that a Godfather reference actually made it into the indictment. Part of the indictment noted how Stone demanded that, I think, Credico pull a Frank Pantangeli.
Oh.
And that was awesome. Until apparently nobody at MSNBC knew how to pronounce Frank Pantangeli, and then I realized, well, fuck, I'm old. But,
No, you're just cultured.
Okay, thank you. That sounds so much better than old. Thank you, Rebecca.
You're welcome.
But, yeah, it's just to build on Kevin's point, the collaboration with WikiLeaks was the collusion. Because this all began when the Russian government found a way to get a whole bunch of information on the Democrats, and they decided to use it to help Donald Trump. This was their method. This is what Robert Mueller is doing with each of these indictments. He's showing us various pieces of the puzzle, and every time it happens, the Trumpan proletariat in the media say, "Oh, well, that's not the entire puzzle. Those pieces, that's just one piece. That's not the whole puzzle, so obviously the whole puzzle doesn't exist." No, the whole puzzle actually does exist. You just have to look at all the pieces being put together.
I mean, the question, of course, is what does Mueller know in addition to what was in the indictment? I've read some analyses of these indictments that, what this paperwork is what he can get a conviction on right now, but is probably a tip of an iceberg on what he knows. And he's not willing to go public with what he knows yet. So what is he trying to flip Stone on? Who else is involved in these conversations? What additional nefarious deeds were being done?
Well, we have the fact that there is, and part of the indictment says that a senior Trump campaign official was directed to reach out to Stone. Not did it on their own, not contacted, was directed to.
Now, was that the individual too that we think is Steve Bannon?
It is Steve Bannon.
It is.
There's
Steve
no
Bannon.
doubt that it's Steve Bannon.
I'm trying to.
I don't know about that for sure.
It is Steve Bannon.
It's either Steve Bannon or it's Don Jr.
No, it is, guys. It's Steve Bannon.
Okay, I'm gonna go grammar Nazi on all of you and focus. Don't focus on the noun. Focus on the verb. Was directed to. So who is higher than a senior campaign Trump official who could do the directing?
Let me guess. I think it was Melania. I think it was Melania. She would be telling Steve Bannon what to do, right?
Oh yeah, totally.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Or maybe it was who else? Eric? Could Eric have done it? You got me, Jay. I don't know who
Daniels,
it could be.
that's who it was. Stormy.
Stormy Daniels directed.
That's nice. That's good.
Greg, every week you kind of beat us up because you say you're the only one that watches Fox News.
I am the only one who watches Fox
Which is
News.
not true.
Okay.
This morning I was watching Fox Business News, which I think sort of counts as Fox News.
Okay, sure.
It's close. It's got Lou Dobbs. It's close enough.
Yeah.
They were interviewing a guy from the Wall Street Journal named Daniel Henninger. I don't know this man. And this was the logic that he was using. He said, there could be no collusion with Trump because Trump cut Stone loose early in the campaign in 2015. Then about 2 sentences later, he said, "Oh, that campaign was a mess. In fact, Trump only hired Manafort in part because Stone recommended him." So he's saying Stone had nothing to do with the campaign, but he's recommending campaign managers to Donald Trump. They talk out of both sides of their you-know-what, and they don't care. And the Fox viewers are not smart enough to pick this stuff apart.
Well, it was like that Rudy clip from earlier this week where he's like, "Hey, there are tapes, and I've listened to them, and they said this."
Right.
You've listened to the tapes? No, there weren't tapes. But I did listen to them. I mean, that was the conversation. Jake Tapper looked like he was wondering what someone had slipped in his drink.
Yeah, and I wonder how many folks at Fox who watch Fox News have actually seen Unforgiven, because there's a line that Gene Hackman says to Morgan Freeman that just explains everything. It says, "And when their lies don't match your lies, ... That's just that they're all trying to get their lies to match up, and their lies are not matching up because, if we're going to use the Godfather reference, they're all Fredo.
They really are all Fredo.
They're all Fredos who think they're Michaels, and that's the worst part.
Yeah, they aspire to Michaeldom.
Truth.
Right, no, but they don't aspire. They think they are already, and they talk like they're Sonnies.
This has become the most tortured film metaphor that we have ever engaged in.
Well, wait a second. Let me throw in a television metaphor since we're on entertainment now.
Yeah. These are actually all similes, not metaphors.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Machuzak.
So there's a fellow named Jerome Corsi, the guy who's famous for writing anti-Clinton books.
Oh, yeah.
And he was person one in the indictment. And this week, Jerome Corsi turned into what I like to call Corsi the Magnificent, which is a takeoff of Karnak the Magnificent from the Johnny Carson days.
Oh, sure.
Because they actually asked him, well, you are on record as having said that a tranche of emails about John Podesta is going to be hitting the public airwaves, or whatever you want to call it. And it was like days before it happened. And he actually is claiming that he didn't know from WikiLeaks that this was going to happen, that he has all his life, he gets these feelings, these senses, and he has these amazing predictive powers.
Because, Kevin, let's remember, those emails were all stored in a sealed Funk and Wagnalls jar. No one was aware of what was in those emails.
Since noon today, they were stored.
Exactly. No one under 50 will understand what the hell we're talking about. It's
At this
so
point,
sad.
we're just amusing ourselves.
Ain't that
At
the
this point,
truth?
that's what we've been doing for 190
I was
episodes.
going to say, we're closing in on 200 episodes of amusing ourselves. It's good stuff.
Okay, so Cohen is going to be testifying in front of the Senate. His House testimony is on hold, but he's going to be in front of the Senate, but maybe not in public. Boy, that'd be a big letdown if he has to go in front of the Senate and do it behind closed doors.
Oh,
Well, and the announcement that he wasn't going to speak in front of the House, he basically came out and said, "Hello, my name is Michael Cohen. I'm a witness. Donald Trump tampered with me, and now I'm not going to testify." I mean, it was that blatant what happened there. Donald Trump went on Twitter and threatened the guy's father-in-law, and then he turns tail and runs like a rabbit.
But it says something about what the House Judiciary Committee needs to do right now. I know there is a fear of starting impeachment proceedings. I think that fear is misplaced. But at the very least, the House Judiciary Committee should be sending all sorts of subpoenas and questions to Robert Mueller. Let him deflect as many as he can. But we are now at the point where the House Judiciary Committee needs to step up to the plate and actually take a role here and say, look, there are things we need to investigate to determine what exactly Donald Trump is doing, why he is doing it, and if it is a danger to our Constitution and to our Republic. Because there are certain things that Mueller cannot do and cannot say because he's a prosecutor. The House Judiciary Committee has a bit more leeway, and they need to start using it. They need to start asking Robert Mueller a bunch of questions. Again, I'm not saying Mueller has to answer them. I'm saying the House Judiciary Committee has to start asking them, and they need to start doing so right the F now.
Well, keep in mind, this Congress is less than 3 weeks old, and there was a federal government shutdown for much of it. So, you know, they get some breathing room.
Yeah, no, actually, no. I'm gonna weigh in here on DJ's side. I concur, and I'll say why. Yes, they should not come in and look like they came in with red meat ready to start impeachment proceedings on day one or month one. The problem is that there's really only a window of time left. You can't start impeachment proceedings once the primaries have started. So we're really looking at a 12-month window of time to get this thing off the ground. And yes, I agree with you, DJ. They really need to start investigating now. They may need to subpoena Mueller and find out what he knows. Robert Mueller, everybody has this idea. He's a Boy Scout. He's the most professional. He knows what he's doing. And that all may be true. But he also may not get that there's a timeline on this for the American people. He may figure that he can keep investigating this into 2021 or 2022. We don't know what this man is thinking. Nobody knows it except the people that work with him. And the problem is, if you miss the window of the next, I would say, 6 months to actually get an impeachment vote, people are going to say, well, you can't do it now. We're going into election year. You can't do it during the campaign. And, you know, if Trump somehow gets reelected, his people will rightfully be able to say, he's now been duly elected twice. You can't impeach him now for things that he did during the 2015-2016 campaign.
Let me ask you guys a question. Let's say, hypothetically, and God forbid this happens, that RBG, Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, decides to step down for health reasons, or because she's tired, or she wants to, focus on her rap career. Would the Senate be comfortable putting another justice if the president is indicted or is up for impeachment? I know there was a big brouhaha because the president was in a lame duck year, but how would they feel? And could even Mitch McConnell justify a president that was indicted?
Mitch McConnell has no conscience and no soul, so yes, he could justify it. He's the worst person in the world.
Absolutely, they would do it. They would not bat an eye. They would vote on the new nominee as soon as was humanly possible.
Really,
Greg, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the judicial branch is the only thing that holds the Republican Party together. If Antonin Scalia were still alive today, Hillary Clinton would be president. Period. End of paragraph. Last page of the book.
Yeah, I mean, basically, the Republican Party wants to take away my right to bodily autonomy, and they want your corporate overlords to be able to rule every aspect of their lives, and the only way to do that is with a Supreme Court majority. They would kick Ruth Bader Ginsburg off a cliff if they thought they could get away with it.
So speaking of corporate overlords, Howard Schultz, the CEO of Starbucks, thinks that he could be the next president of the United States, and his path to doing it is running as a third-party candidate. So he is at least ringing a bell of warning. Democrats are very scared. Republicans are very joyful. What do you guys think?
Listeners, you probably can't hear this, but all of our eyes are rolling around in our heads right now. We look like cartoon characters.
Like marbles, people. Ugh. We have marble eyes.
Boo. Boo.
Well, this brings me to a topic that we've been talking about, and most of our friends in the political groups have been talking about for the last 2 years. This thing that the two-party system is the problem, and we have to break the two-party hold on. The two-party system works in a country that has the Electoral College. And if you try to go to this idea of third-party candidates and independent candidates, you're not going to be happy with the result. This guy should be running as a Democrat. If he wants to be a presidential candidate, let him be a conservative or a moderate Democrat. That's where he should run. And you know what? If Mr. Schultz, who I happen to like him and I like his politics, and I hope he does run for president, I hope he runs as a Democrat. If he carries through on this threat, which personally I don't believe he's going to do, but if a year and a half from now he's talking about running as an independent candidate, Democrats should simply decide to stop going to Starbucks. And let me tell you something. That will end his candidacy, because the rural people in the Midwest who drive trucks aren't the ones that are dropping $10 a day for mocha lattes. It's the urban liberals who are supporting Starbucks. And if he messes with us, we're going to mess with him.
I would say, though, there's a part of me that thinks that he's just doing this he's got a book coming out. So I have a feeling that he's just doing this to sell his book. It wouldn't surprise me if he did. But it should be something of a warning to Democrats as a party, because the Democrats are going to have a lot of choices. And in 2020, there are a lot of folks who are running, some who are more on the left, some who hew closer to the center. The Howard Schultz threat, if you will, is a warning to Democrats that they need to be very careful about whom they nominate. They're going to, again, there's going to be a wide choice out there, going to be a wide group. They need to make sure that they can nominate a candidate who can appeal to, frankly, the voters who gave them a majority in the House in November. Suburban, moderate voters. They were the ones who delivered the majority for the Democrats in 2018. They will be the ones who deliver the majority for Democrats in 2020, unless the Democrats nominate somebody who basically thinks they can essentially shame them into voting for him or her or them. It's not going to work that way. Democrats need to make sure they can nominate somebody who can hold those centrist voters, those suburban voters, or else Howard Schultz could really be a threat, or whoever the Libertarians nominate, William Weld it will probably be. The Democrats just need to be careful about whom they nominate, which is to say, don't nominate Bernie Sanders, don't nominate Tulsi Gabbard, and I would say, don't nominate Elizabeth Warren, because she can be just as problematic. But that's just me.
Is Bernie going to announce this week? Is that going to happen?
Yeah.
He probably will.
Is he going to announce he's going to run as a Democrat, even though he's not a Democrat? Maybe. I guess I'm a Democrat.
Yeah, he's a Democrat when he wants the Democrats' database and their fundraising infrastructure. But unless he's been raising a ton of money for candidates for these past 2 years, I think we should just shut him out. You know what? Let him build his own machine. He's not one of us. He caucuses with us, but he refuses to have a D next to his name. If he's not raising money for other candidates down ticket, go away. Just go away, dude.
Let Bernie run as a socialist. Let Tulsi Gabbard run as a Baathist, and everybody's happy.
joke never gets old. That's actually really funny every time.
Thank you.
The More Perfect Union. Real debate without the hate. Available on iTunes and Stitcher.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's other things happening in the world. DJ, what's going on in Venezuela? And did Trump actually get something right this time?
He might have. Venezuela actually has two presidents as of this evening. It has Nicolas Maduro, the guy whose re-election campaign in 2008 was "Vote for me or we won't feed you," which normally is a pretty good, although horribly abusive, campaign slogan. But even so, he also had to make sure that no serious opposition was allowed on the ballot. There was a lot of ballot stuffing. There was just a lot of nasty criminal stuff that went down in the 2018 election. So the National Assembly, the Venezuelan legislature, which was elected in 2015 and is in fact controlled by the opposition, said, you know what? That election was a bunch of junk. Maduro is an illegitimate president. We are declaring the office vacant, as is our right under the Constitution. And they declared the presiding officer of the National Assembly, Mr. Guaido, I'm totally screwing up his name, as the interim president of the country. The United States has recognized him as the interim president, one of the perhaps the first thing Donald Trump has done right since he took office. Canada has joined suit. Most European countries will do the same in about a week, unless Maduro actually says, you know what, fine, we'll do a rerun of the election, we'll make it fair.
No, but Maduro has the army. Why should he give up anything?
Yeah.
Well, for one thing, Europe is already telling him this. The Bank of England already told him that he can't withdraw the foreign reserves in their country because they don't consider him the legitimate president of the country. The military attaché in Washington has already said, I consider Guaido my boss and not Maduro. So there is a lot of, if you will, soft power that opposes Maduro and supports Guaido. There is the Venezuelan people who very much despise Maduro. And the fact of the matter is, yes, the military for now is supporting Maduro. But for all of the talk about foreign intervention and foreign coups and all that, the fact of the matter is the only foreign countries who have intervened are Russia and Cuba, and they've done it on Maduro's behalf, which has only incensed the Venezuelan people even more. Those of us who remember the late 1980s and the early 1990s and the Orange Revolution in Ukraine in 2004, the Rose Revolution in Kyrgyzstan and various things, we know that people power matters and that people power can have an impact. And the question really for the Venezuelan military is, do they really want to spend the next year or two shooting and killing hundreds of thousands, if not millions of their own people, or are they going to come to the realization that Maduro is the problem and he has to go?
Yeah, but let's be clear. George W. Bush's polling and approval rating was never higher than when he took down Saddam Hussein. And I'll be quite honest, what scares me the most about this situation is if Trump gets his war boner out and says he really needs a distraction, then attacking a small country, which he's like, why do I take down this dictator who's been awfully bad? And we could go in there and we'd be hailed as liberators, because I've heard that before, and they have oil.
You know what? Guys, none of that's going to happen. This guy Guaido is going to be living in Miami in a compound in about a year and a half. He ain't taking over the country, and we're not going to war down there.
I'm going to be more optimistic than Kevin, and actually more optimistic than Greg. If Trump does that, if Trump commits our military forces into Venezuela, it would have to be on the invitation of all of our allies in the region, Colombia, Brazil, Guyana, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. None of them have asked for that right now, and I don't expect them to.
And Brazil's not gonna.
No.
The far-right government of Brazil is not going to be interested in taking down a far-right government.
Nobody wants a hot war in their hemisphere, on their continent.
But I do think that the fact that Venezuela's neighbors have all made it abundantly clear that they support the interim president and that they want nothing to do with Maduro, I think that this is about convincing the Venezuelan military to do the right thing. If the Venezuelan military chooses to do the wrong thing, this is going to get very bloody, very painful. It's going to get very sad. but I'm going to retain some of my optimism, which is unusual for me, and say that the Venezuelan military can still, I believe, be convinced into doing the right thing.
Okay, just don't make a prediction because you're terrible at those.
This is not a prediction.
Okay,
this is
good.
Not a prediction.
Good.
Okay, and you know what? Talking about bloodbaths, because there actually was a bloodbath this week. It was at the HuffPo and BuzzFeed, where they laid off, gosh, how many people? I think it was like several hundred at BuzzFeed. I don't know how many at HuffPo.
Oh, it was significant percentages of their reporting staff. I can't remember what the numbers are, but it was not minor, and it was, if you go on Twitter, it's people you've heard of, and I'm blanking on names right now, but it's journalists whose stuff you've read, and not just about quizzes about Mulan.
My BuzzFeed joke is, did they send them all back to study hall? Because
they're so young.
Because they're so young, and it's just not a good news outlet. And
yes, it is. You're so mistaken.
I'm not. And the fact of the matter is, maybe the market is telling us something, that you can't run a news organization when half your group is saying, quick, I need to find 3 more people who look like this avocado, or stuff like that. I mean, that's not a good business model. So as a common sense liberal who believes in capitalism, ta-da! This is the best thing that has ever happened to these kids. Tell them to learn a skill, heating and air conditioning, because writing internet quizzes is not the best thing for you.
Are you sure? Because it was until 2 days ago, Greg. It was a full-time job, and now they've been laid off. And telling them to learn a new skill when they've been to journalism school, when writing, content that's popular and readable is valid. It's something I do. I'm a gossip columnist when I'm not doing this. I get paid nicely for it. Don't denigrate it and tell me that these kids should be doing something else with their lives.
They're not.
And don't tell me they're kids when they're not kids. Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm sorry, if the market is telling that it's not working, unless there was some outside force.
Well, there is an outside force, actually.
What was it?
It's the era of the podcast.
Yes,
maybe the podcast is killing the internet.
That's right. They messed with me, and I came back. That's right, BuzzFeed.
You know what? And it's actually a valid point, and I'm not just saying that because I'm the one who put it on the outline.
Oh, you gave away my secrets.
I'm not saying that because I'm the smartest person in the room, but I'm going to mention that all my points are really good.
If you look at the rise of HuffPo and BuzzFeed, they coincide with rises of what are now less than la mode internet forms. HuffPo came amid the rise of blogging. BuzzFeed came amid the rise of social media. Those are the places where they caught on and where they were able to catch fire and get word of mouth and get readership and get clicks and get advertising. Right now, we are in a phase where the democratization of journalism as a force is, very heavily into podcasts. Everyone has a podcast. The 4 of us have a podcast. I mean, if the 4 of us can do it, anybody can do it. So are they having to switch gears in the middle of the road to try and catch up with where things are going right now? Because podcasts are hot the way viral videos used to be hot, the way memes used to be hot. Is this a signal that there's some kind of shift in the very ground level of media?
That's a good question. My thing with podcasts, and it's a slight variation on what we're talking about, but what really annoys me is when these MSNBC shows or these Fox shows just repackage their audio as a podcast. Podcasting is a very specific style of media. We make fun of Ben Shapiro, or we all like the Pod Save America people. Like them or not, these people are media entrepreneurs. They built up something really special in a very competitive marketplace. And it just bugs the heck out of me that people will just take the Chris Hayes show or the Rachel Maddow show and just repurpose the existing audio and call it a podcast, which is insulting to all of us who actually put in the work to create a product.
Well, I mean, they're using the word podcast in 2 ways. There's podcasts like us that is original content, that is something that we manufacture out of our own minds and voices every week. And then there is podcast, the platform, which, talks about what the technology is. And so when you talk about the Rachel Maddow podcast, they are using the platform. When you talk
and that
about
bugs me.
our podcast.
You're 100%
true.
right. You're 100% right. Podcast could be both, and it bugs me that it's both.
Right.
Really? I'm absolutely. I love the fact that if I miss a TV show, especially a news or show, and I don't have time to watch it, or especially, and there's so many ways I can watch it, whether it's DVR'd or on demand. The concept of someone saying I have to be home tonight to watch TV is ridiculous. But if I don't have time to do that, I can just put on headphones and listen to it while driving.
And I do. I would rather listen to things that way. I don't really need the visual on a lot of.
Yeah, but you've got Sirius. Okay,
I do have Sirius, and I have Blinkist too. I might as well say that it's competing with Blinkist, which is awesome, and I'm not even charging them for that.
Okay, so while we're on the topic of entertainment, well, first of all, let's talk about this. We were talking about journalism. The White House has stopped holding daily press briefings. In fact, I'm not sure they're even holding weekly press briefings anymore.
No, they haven't held a press briefing since December.
I find that very troubling. I know why. I totally understand why Trump told Sanders not to do them anymore, or he doesn't think that she should bother with them. But boy, that was a place where the public actually got to touch what was going on in the White House on a daily basis. And removing that, I don't think people understand what a big thing that is.
Right. So they now control all the questions and all the answers that go, all the information that comes out. No one's allowed to ask any questions. And even that's fascinating to me.
Who cares? No. Honestly, what this means is that the Washington, D.C. press corps no longer have to spend an hour a day or an hour a week or whatever it is, wasting their time asking questions of a woman who has a very serious problem with the truth. They can spend that time doing more investigative reporting, working sources, working stories, and actually getting shit done. Frankly, this is the best thing that ever happened to the Washington, D.C. press corps. They no longer have to go through all the charade of actually pretending they could get actual information from the White House when we know that such things were not really possible since at least January of 2017, and I would argue since long before then. I'm not sure I have actually seen an informative White House press briefing in the 30-odd years that I've been watching them. I'll be perfectly honest. They're a waste of time.
Well, what it shows is that Trump has won with Twitter. Like, if you follow the Washington Post like I do, at least 3 stories a day are reporting on Trump's tweets. They know, they have made that the news, and Trump, therefore, has made that his chosen medium.
So the other thing that's happening this week is that the Oscar nominees were announced. Roma got 10 nominations. So, guys, have you seen these movies? I've seen Roma. I understand why it got so many nominations. What about the rest of the crowd?
I saw Bohemian Rhapsody this weekend, and I saw Vice. I've seen Black Panther.
Black Panther, baby! I saw that one.
Oh yeah.
I did too.
I saw 3/4 of that one. It plays in my house sometimes, and I walk through the room.
I just listened to the podcast.
See, we should have a podcast of Black Panther.
Who's going to host? Do they have a host yet?
I put my name in several times.
Have they gotten back to you?
No.
Oh, that's weird. I can't believe they haven't got back to you.
Yeah, I think they're being jerks about it. But they
really are.
I would like the Spider-Man film to win for more things.
Oh, yeah. No, my son just saw the Spider-Man film and couldn't stop talking about it. He's encouraging everyone he's ever met to go see it.
Yes, that's my favorite film of the year so far. Wow. Hands down. That beats everything.
I couldn't get through it.
Really?
Yeah.
Was it all the flashing lights and all the zipping and the zanging and those darn kids?
Yeah, those darn kids. Get off my lawn.
I know. It was, I can't tell you, if I was not like out of my seat, like this is the most exciting thing, I was crying my eyes out through most of it. I mean, it was that good.
Okay, so what's the big news story that's going to dominate the headlines this coming week? Any predictions?
Robert Gates is going to get arrested. He's the next one.
See, I was going to say Don Jr.
No,
I want it to be Don Jr., man. I want one of those Trump boys in a orange jumpsuit. I want it. If I can't have a Kushner perp walk, I want a John Jr. or Eric
like this.
perp walk.
It goes Gates, Kushner, then the Jr., then Eric Jr.
Did you mean Rick Gates?
Rick Gates. Did I say?
Oh, you said Robert Gates. That's why I
said
laughed.
Robert Gates. Oh
no.
That's why I laughed. I thought, what a great, reference.
That would be a twist. He's director of the Boy Scouts of America now, and he's actually the one who lifted the prohibitions on gay and transgender scouts. So, Robert Gates is one of the good guys in his own way.
He's all right.
Yes. And you know who else are good guys? Our listeners for putting up with this nonsense for 40 or 50 minutes. So we want to thank you and urge you to follow us on Twitter at #MPU Podcast and on Facebook at facebook.com/More Perfect Union Podcast. And please share our link on your Facebook timeline so your friends can discover us as well. And if you like this kind of friendly debate or debate without the hate or whatever you believe this is, and you'd like to participate with us between shows, we're all in a Facebook group called Open Fire Politics. Maybe you'll join and come debate with us between shows. We'd love to see you there. With that in mind, Greg, what will you be signing up for this week?
What are your plans?
Oh, what are my plans this week? I have such a busy week. It's unbelievable. Girl Scout meetings, jiu-jitsu lessons, but mainly I'm going to work on a invasion of Venezuela if things go south. I'm going to try to get my war boner on,
War boner was the name of Greg's college band.
It's tattooed on my back.